Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight we're stepping into something different. 7 decades of American New Year's Eves, each one a snapshot of hope, fear, and the stubborn human need to mark time's passage with noise and champagne. You'll feel the weight of wool coats in gaslit parlors, taste bootleg gin during Prohibition, hear the crackle of wartime radios, and watch the first televised ball drop from a brand new suburban couch. Fair warning, you're about to live through world wars, economic collapse, social revolution, and some truly questionable fashion choices. Good thing this isn't your life. Here's the thing about New Year's Eve. It's the same ritual, century after century, but the world around it keeps shape-shifting. The optimism of 1900 wasn't the optimism of 1955. The fear of 1942 wasn't the fear of 1968. And yet, at every midnight, Americans gathered, sometimes in defiance, sometimes in prayer, always with that peculiar mix of nostalgia and hope that makes us human. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is right now. Are you in Tokyo at sunrise? London at tea time? Somewhere in Kansas at the exact moment your great-grandmother might have been listening to Guy Lombardo on the radio? I want to know. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The year is 1900, and you're standing in a Manhattan brownstone parlor where the gaslight still flickers against wallpaper patterned with peacocks and chrysanthemums. Electric lights exist. Thomas Edison's been showing them off for 2 decades, but they're still a novelty, something wealthy families install to impress dinner guests. Tonight, someone's husband rigged up 3 bulbs in the front hall, and they buzz and hum like angry bees, casting a harsh white glow that makes everyone look slightly unwell. The older women keep squinting at them suspiciously. You're wearing layer upon layer, a corset that's slowly redistributing your internal organs, a silk petticoat, a heavy taffeta gown in deep burgundy, and over everything, a wool evening jacket, because the brownstone's coal furnace can't quite heat these high-ceilinged rooms. Your feet, crammed into kid leather boots with 42 buttons each, already ache. Fashion is not kind in 1900, but you look spectacular. And that's what matters when you're about to step into a new century. The parlor smells like cigar smoke, oysters, and the particular mustiness of heavy velvet drapes that haven't been taken down and beaten since last spring. On the sideboard, there's a spread that would bankrupt most American families. Oysters on ice shipped from the Chesapeake, cold roast beef, aspic salads shimmering in their molds, Charlotte Russe in crystal coupes, and pyramids of fresh fruit that cost more than a factory worker's weekly wage. In the corner, bottles of Moët and Chandon champagne sit in silver buckets. The real French stuff, before anyone imagined there'd be a reason to stop importing it. Johnny Hand's orchestra is set up in the back parlor. 5 men in formal tailcoats with instruments that gleam under the gaslight. They've been playing Sousa marches and Viennese waltzes all evening, and later they'll attempt some of that new ragtime music that's been scandalizing polite society. The syncopation feels dangerous, like something that might unravel the social fabric if you listen too closely. You're holding a calling card, your calling card, with your name engraved in careful copperplate script. This is how social life works in 1900. You leave cards, you receive cards. You attend receptions based on who's left their card in your silver tray. Tonight's hostess, Mrs. Vanderberg, has invited 40 people to see in the new century, and every single one of them is white, Protestant, and wealthy enough to pretend that money doesn't matter. The men are discussing the future with the absolute confidence of people who believe they can see it clearly. The automobile will replace the horse within 20 years, someone's husband declares, gesturing with his champagne flute. Mark my words. Another man, already red-faced from brandy, insists that the real revolution will be in communication. The telephone will connect every home in America, he says, and distance will become meaningless. They're both right, of course, but they can't imagine the world their predictions will create. The women are having more practical conversations about servants. The Irish girl problem, someone calls it. How the younger generation of Irish immigrants don't want to go into service anymore. How they're taking factory jobs instead. How standards are slipping everywhere you look. You nod politely, but you're thinking about the girl who helped you dress tonight, her red hands and tired eyes, wondering what midnight means to her. At 11:45, everyone gathers in the front parlor. The men check their pocket watches, gold, mechanical marvels that tick with Swiss precision. Historians still argue whether Americans in 1900 truly understood they were standing at a threshold. Did they feel the weight of it, the way we do looking back? Or was it just another party, another excuse to drink champagne and pretend the century's problems, labor strikes, racial violence, imperial wars in the Philippines, didn't exist? Someone opens the windows despite the January cold. This is tradition. You let the old year out and the new year in. The street below is quiet compared to what it will become in later decades. A few carriages clatter past. Someone's singing in German in a building across the way. The city smells like coal smoke and horse manure, and the particular metallic scent of impending snow. The countdown begins. 10, 9, 8. The voices are refined, cultivated, the diction precise. 3, 2, 1. And then it's 1901, and church bells are ringing across the city, and someone set off firecrackers on the street, and the orchestra launches into Auld Lang Syne, even though Guy Lombardo won't make it the official New Year's song for another 3 decades. You're kissed on the cheek by women wearing too much French perfume. You shake hands with men whose handlebar moustaches tickle your fingers. Someone makes a toast to the American century, and everyone laughs because it sounds presumptuous, but also because maybe, just maybe, it's true. The champagne tastes like apples and optimism. By 12:30, the party is breaking up. This is still a generation that believes in propriety, in going home at a reasonable hour, in not making spectacles of yourself in public. You collect your coat, heavy wool lined with silk, smelling faintly of mothballs, and your husband helps you into a carriage for the ride home. The streets are busier now. People are spilling out of theatres and restaurants, calling to each other in English and Italian and Yiddish. A street vendor is still selling roasted chestnuts, his cart glowing like a small planet. 2 policemen in tall helmets stand on a corner, watching everything with the weary patience of men who know the night's just beginning. You look up, and the sky is that particular shade of brown-black you get in cities that burn coal for everything. No stars. But somewhere up there is the future. Automobiles and aeroplanes and electric lights in every home, and 2 world wars and a man walking on the moon. You don't know any of that yet. You just know it's 1901 and you're alive, and the new century stretches out ahead of you like an unwritten book. The oysters were delicious, by the way. You'll remember that detail for the rest of your life, how they tasted like the ocean and possibility. It's December 31st, 1918. And you're standing in what technically isn't a speakeasy, because Prohibition won't start for another 13 months. But it feels like one anyway. A basement room in Chicago, where the lights are dim and the music is quieter than it should be, and everyone keeps glancing at the door. The Great War ended 6 weeks ago. The armistice was signed on November 11th at 11 a.m., and church bells rang across America, and people poured into the streets, crying and laughing and embracing strangers. But the celebrations were muted, because by then, The Spanish flu had killed more Americans than the war itself. 675,000 dead, more than all US combat deaths in both world wars, Korea and Vietnam combined. Your city still requires masks in public. Some people wear them, most don't. The ones who don't tend to be the ones who didn't lose anyone. You lost your brother. He died at Chateau Thierry in June, shot through the chest while advancing through wheat fields that had been shelled into moonscapes. The telegram came in July. Your mother keeps his photograph on the mantel, a formal portrait taken before he shipped out. Him in his army uniform, looking impossibly young and scared, despite the photographer's instructions to appear serious and martial. Tonight, you're trying to forget. That's what 1918 is about. Collective forgetting, collective survival, the grim determination to keep living because what else can you do? The war is over. The flu is, maybe, subsiding. Prohibition is coming, whether you like it or not. The 18th Amendment was ratified by Congress a year ago, and the temperance ladies have won, and soon drinking will become illegal and therefore, naturally, more popular than ever. The room smells like cigarette smoke and boot black, and the particular scent of too many bodies in too small a space. There's a piano in the corner, a battered upright that's missing 3 keys, and a woman in a dark blue dress is playing something slow and minor that might be Debussy or might be improvised. No one's really listening. Conversation rises and falls in waves, punctuated by the clink of glasses and occasional bursts of laughter that sounds slightly desperate. You're drinking whiskey, not the good stuff. The good stuff is already getting harder to find as distilleries prepare for the dry years. But something raw and local that burns going down and makes your eyes water. Your companion, a man you've been seeing for 3 months, his name is James. He works at a steel mill. He has kind eyes and hands scarred from industrial accidents. Raises his glass in a silent toast. You touch glasses with a gentle ping that reminds you of church bells, but smaller, sadder. The fashion has changed since 1900. Your dress is shorter, mid-calf, which would have been scandalous 2 decades ago, and loose-fitting. The corset is gone, replaced by a simple brassiere and girdle. Your hair is pulled back in a practical bun because the elaborate pompadours of the Edwardian era feel frivolous now, like something from another world. James is wearing a simple suit, dark grey, the kind that can take him from factory to church to speakeasy without looking out of place. At 1:45, someone turns on a radio. This is still new. Radio broadcasting barely exists in 1918. But someone's rigged up a crystal set, and there's music coming through, scratchy and distant, like listening to ghosts. It's a big band playing somewhere in New York, and the sound quality is terrible. But everyone gathers around anyway, because this is the future. This is how news will travel, how music will reach into every home, how distance will collapse. Historians still argue whether the 1918 New Year's celebrations were truly subdued, or whether Americans were simply exhausted. The truth is probably both. You're tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. Bone deep, soul tired. The kind of exhaustion that comes from losing too many people in too short a time. Your brother, James's cousin, the neighbour's daughter, the boy who delivered ice, the woman who taught Sunday school. The flu didn't discriminate, and the war took mostly the young men. And 1918 was the year America learned that being modern and powerful didn't make you immortal. The countdown begins at 30 seconds. Someone's keeping time with a pocket watch, the same kind the men carried in 1900, except this watch belonged to a man who died in France and was mailed home in a canvas bag with his other effects. 10, 9, 8. The voices are quieter than they were 18 years ago, less certain, more aware of what a year can destroy. 3, 2, 1. And it's 1919, and there's a moment of silence, actual silence, which never happens in bars, before someone starts singing, "Over there," and then someone else starts crying, and then everyone's hugging and kissing and trying very hard to believe that the worst is over. James kisses you, and it tastes like whiskey and tobacco and salt, because you're both crying without quite realizing it. "It's going to be better," he whispers. "It has to be." And you nod, because what else can you do? Hope is an act of defiance in 1918, a middle finger to everything that tried to break you. The party continues, but differently. People are dancing now. The piano player has switched to something faster, almost ragtime, and couples are doing the foxtrot and the one-step, dances that would have shocked your mother's generation with their casual touching and improper proximity. You dance with James, his hand warm on your waist, and for a moment the room spins and you're both laughing, and the dead stay dead, but the living keep living. By 1 a.m., you're walking home through streets that smell like coal smoke and snow and possibility. The flu masks are mostly gone now. People have given up, accepted whatever's coming. James walks you to your door, kisses you goodnight with the sweet formality of someone who was raised to respect women, even when he's been drinking. You go inside, climb the stairs to your apartment, and stand at the window looking out at the city. Chicago glows orange-brown under streetlights that are still mostly gas, though electric lights are becoming more common. Somewhere, a church bell is ringing. Somewhere else, someone's singing. The war is over. The flu is subsiding. Prohibition is coming and will fail spectacularly. The 1920s are about to explode into jazz and flappers and speakeasies and the Charleston, an economic boom and bust. But tonight, you're just tired and hopeful and alive. You think about your brother, wonder what he'd say if he could see 1919. Probably something stupid and optimistic because he was 17 and invincible until he wasn't. You make a resolution, same as everyone, to live harder, love better, make it count. It's the only promise that matters when you've watched this many people disappear. You're with a group from the office, girls from the typing pool and a few of the junior salesmen who are fun to dance with but too broke to marry. Everyone's been drinking since 9, starting at a speakeasy in the village, password Joe sent me, where a Negro jazz quartet played music so hot and syncopated it felt like your bones were vibrating. The trumpet player was doing things that shouldn't be possible with 3 valves and human lungs, and the piano player's left hand was walking bass lines that made your feet move involuntarily. Prohibition has been the law for nearly a decade, and it's the most widely ignored law in American history. Everyone drinks. Your grandmother drinks. Your priest drinks. The policeman on the corner drinks. And he'll arrest you for drinking, and then he'll go home and have a whiskey. The speakeasies are everywhere. Basement clubs and upstairs apartments and restaurants with secret back rooms. The alcohol is terrible. Bathtub gin and wood grain alcohol, and whiskey that might blind you if you're unlucky. But it's abundant and cheap, and drinking it feels like participating in the national pastime of ignoring stupid rules. Times Square is a carnival of light and sound and humanity. The theatres are all lit up, the Paramount, the Capitol, the Strand, their marquees blazing with electric bulbs, advertising talking pictures. Yes, talking pictures. Movies with sound. The Jazz Singer came out 2 years ago and changed everything. And now every studio is scrambling to retrofit their theatres with sound equipment. And the era of silent film is dying faster than anyone expected. The crowd is rowdier than it was in 1918. There's music everywhere. Someone's got a portable Victrola playing records, and a group of college boys is singing Ain't Misbehavin' in terrible harmony. And somewhere, a trumpet is playing, and it might be live music, or might be a recording. You can't tell anymore. The jazz age has made everything faster, louder, more. More drinking, more dancing, more sex, more spending, more everything. The Victorian rules your grandmother lived by are dead, and good riddance. By 12:30, you're exhausted, and your feet hurt, and you want to go home. You and Dorothy catch a taxi, a yellow checker cab that smells like cigarettes and wet dog. And the driver is singing along to the radio, some jazz number you don't recognize. The streets are chaos, people everywhere, stumbling and laughing and singing. You get home to your tiny studio apartment in Brooklyn, a walk-up with a Murphy bed and a hot plate and a shared bathroom down the hall, and you're too tired to take off your makeup. You just kick off your heels, let your dress fall to the floor, and collapse into bed. Outside, the city keeps celebrating. Inside, you're asleep in seconds, dreaming of jazz and light bulbs and a future that looks bright and infinite. The stock market will keep falling. Banks will fail. Breadlines will form. The Dust Bowl will come. The Depression will grind on for a decade. But tonight, the confetti is still falling and the champagne is still flowing. And 1929 goes out in a blaze of electric light and willful ignorance. It's the last party before the hangover that will last 10 years. At 11:30, Guy Lombardo and his Royal Canadians start playing from the Roosevelt Hotel. This is being broadcast live on radio. WOR is carrying it, and Lombardo's sweet, syrupy orchestrations are becoming the sound of New Year's Eve. He'll play Auld Lang Syne at midnight, and that tradition will stick for the next 90 years. His music is smoother than jazz, more palatable to the older generation, the kind of thing your parents can dance to without feeling like civilization is collapsing. You've had too much gin, your head is swimming pleasantly, and your friend Dorothy, who works in accounting and is secretly dating a married man, scandalous, keeps giggling about nothing. One of the salesmen, a boy named Frank with slicked back hair and a thin moustache that makes him look like a movie villain, keeps trying to put his arm around you, and you keep shrugging him off, because you're not that drunk. The countdown begins. 10, 9, 8. Thousands of voices, amplified by buildings and radio waves and alcohol. This is the moment, the last New Year's Eve of the prosperous 20s, though nobody knows it yet. 3, 2, 1. The ball drops, electric bulbs blazing. Confetti erupts from somewhere, probably theatre employees throwing it from rooftops, and it falls like snow, like ticker tape, like the paper wealth that evaporated 2 months ago. People are screaming, laughing, kissing strangers, embracing, crying. Someone sets off a firecracker despite the ban. Car horns are honking. Church bells are ringing. The city is noise and light, and bodies pressed together in collective celebration. Frank kisses you, and you let him because it's midnight, and it doesn't mean anything, and tomorrow you'll pretend it didn't happen. He tastes like gin and sen-sen breath tablets and optimism. Dorothy is kissing someone else. Everyone's kissing everyone. Historians still argue whether there was a darkness underneath the 1929 celebrations, a sense of desperation, of dancing on the edge of a cliff. Maybe, or maybe people were just drunk and happy and oblivious to what was coming. December 31st, 1929, and you're pressed against several thousand strangers in Times Square, and the air smells like wet wool and cigarettes, and the particular electricity of a crowd that knows it's watching history, but doesn't quite understand what kind yet. The ball, an iron and wood sphere covered in 400 light bulbs, is perched 7 stories above you on the Times building. This is only the 22nd time they've dropped it, a tradition that started in 1907, when the city banned fireworks and needed something else to mark midnight. Tonight, for the first time, WOR Radio is broadcasting the countdown live, which means people across the entire eastern seaboard are listening to this exact moment, hearing the same countdown, connected by invisible radio waves in a way that still feels like magic. You're wearing a dropped-waist dress that ends just below your knees, scandalously short by 1900 standards, perfectly ordinary by 1929 standards. No corset, no petticoats, just a simple silk shift in emerald green with beaded fringe that catches the light when you move. Your hair is bobbed, cut short in that Joan Crawford style that drove your mother to tears when you first did it 3 years ago, and held back with a beaded headband. On your feet, T-strap heels that are absolutely destroying your arches, but look fantastic. Your lips are painted dark red with that new tangy lipstick everyone's wearing, and you smell like Chanel No. 5 because you splurged, because 1929 has been a good year, because the stock market has been climbing and climbing, and everyone you know has money in stocks, and everyone's getting rich, and what could possibly go wrong? Except something already did go wrong. Black Tuesday was October 29th, 2 months ago, and the market crashed so hard that grown men jumped out of Wall Street windows, and $30 billion vanished overnight, and the financial world ended. But here's the thing. Most Americans don't understand that yet. The Great Depression hasn't started. Not really. Not in the way it will. And tonight, people are still spending money, still drinking illegal champagne, still believing that American prosperity is a permanent condition. December 31st, 1942, and you're gathered around a Philco radio in a Cleveland living room with blackout curtains pulled tight across the windows, listening to Guy Lombardo play from the Roosevelt Hotel in New York, and everything feels wrong. The radio is a wooden cathedral model with fabric over the speaker and dials that glow amber in the dark. It's the center of your life now. Every evening at 6, you and your mother crowd around it for news from the fronts. Edward R. Murrow broadcasting from London, Ernie Pyle's dispatches from North Africa, the tinny, distant voices of men describing battles you can't imagine in places you can't pronounce, fighting a war that's consumed the entire world. Your brother is somewhere in the Pacific. Your husband is in England, training for something he can't tell you about in his letters, which arrive weeks late and are censored by army officers who black out anything that might be classified. You haven't heard his voice in 11 months. You've forgotten what it sounds like when it's not filtered through memory and fear. The room is cold. You keep the thermostat at 65 to save heating oil, which is rationed along with gasoline, coffee, sugar, meat, butter, cheese, and anything else that might be useful for the war effort. You're wearing wool slacks. You work in a factory now, making airplane parts, and you've stopped wearing dresses except to church, and 2 sweaters and thick socks. Your mother is knitting something olive green and shapeless that will be sent to the Red Cross to be distributed to soldiers. Her needles click steadily, rhythmically, a sound that's become the soundtrack of waiting. There's food on the table, not much and nothing fancy. A plate of sugar cookies made with molasses because sugar is rationed. Some cheese and crackers. Carrots from your victory garden, which took over the entire backyard last spring and produced enough vegetables to feed your family all summer. Coffee made from grounds you've used 3 times already because coffee is precious and you ration your rations, stretching everything as far as it will go. No champagne, no cocktails. No alcohol at all, actually, because Prohibition ended in 1933. But you don't drink anymore. It feels frivolous, wasteful, disrespectful to the boys overseas who are living on K-rations and muddy water. Your mother used to make a punch for New Year's Eve with ginger ale and fruit juice. But the ginger ale is gone. Manufacturers are using sugar for military purposes. And the fruit juice is going to the kids. So tonight it's just water and weak coffee and the determination to pretend this is celebratory. The blackout curtains are new, heavy fabric lined with black paper, designed to prevent any light from escaping that might guide enemy bombers. This seems absurd in Cleveland, which is about as far from any plausible bombing target as you can get in America. But the regulations are strict and the block warden checks every night. You've heard stories about people getting fined for letting light leak through their windows, for not taking the threat seriously. The war has made everyone suspicious and vigilant and exhausted. There's no ball drop this year. Times Square is dark. They suspended the celebration after Pearl Harbor, and in 1942 and 1943, instead of dropping the ball, they held a moment of silence and prayer. Too many lights, the authorities said, too tempting a target. It doesn't matter that German bombers couldn't possibly reach New York. Fear doesn't care about logistics. Your mother keeps listening to the radio with an intensity that breaks your heart. She's waiting for names, the casualty lists they read after the news. Every evening, she sits with a notepad and pencil, ready to write down any names she recognizes. So far, 3 boys from your neighborhood have been killed. 1 in North Africa, 2 in the Pacific. She went to all 3 funerals, watched mothers receive folded flags, listened to the same platitudes about sacrifice and honor and service. By 12:30, you're exhausted. Your mother goes to bed. You check the blackout curtains one more time, making sure no light escapes, no comfort leaks out into the night where enemies might see it. The house is dark and cold and quiet. You think about your husband, wonder if he's awake right now, if he's celebrating somehow, if he's safe. The last letter said he was fine, but that was 3 weeks ago, and he could be dead and you wouldn't know for days, weeks, maybe months. This is what war does. It stretches time and collapses space, and makes every moment simultaneously eternal and fleeting. You make a resolution, survive. That's it. That's the only goal. Survive until he comes home, until the war ends, until you can stop living like this, rationed and frightened and waiting. Historians still argue about the homefront experience, whether American civilians truly suffered compared to Europeans who were bombed and invaded and starved. The answer is no, of course not. But suffering isn't a competition, and fear is fear. You go to bed fully dressed because it's too cold to undress. Outside, Cleveland is silent under a blackout sky. No stars, the clouds are too thick. Just darkness, and the distant sound of a train and the weight of waiting. Tomorrow you'll go back to the factory. Next week you'll write another letter. Next month you'll listen to more casualty lists. And eventually, if you're lucky, he'll come home and you'll rebuild a life from whatever pieces are left. But tonight, it's 1943 and you're alive, and that has to be enough. You're 26 years old and you feel ancient. The girl who danced in speakeasies is gone, replaced by someone who works a lathe 10 hours a day, who saves bacon grease in a tin can to turn in for munitions production, who writes V-mail letters on thin paper that will be photographed and reduced and sent across oceans. Your hands are calloused from factory work. Your back aches from standing. You're always tired, always worried, always waiting. At 11:45, your mother turns up the radio. Lombardo is playing something slow and sweet. I'll Be Seeing You, the song every soldier's girl knows by heart. It's about longing and absence and the promise of return. The lyrics are banal, but they hit different when your husband is 5,000 miles away, and you don't know if he's alive right now, this minute, as you listen. The countdown, when it comes, is quiet. No crowds in Times Square, no confetti. Just Lombardo's orchestra playing and the announcer's voice, steady, professional, touched with the same exhaustion everyone feels. 10, 9, 8. You and your mother say the numbers together, quietly, like a prayer. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year. The midpoint of the war, though you don't know that yet. The worst is still to come. D-Day, the Battle of the Bulge, Iwo Jima, the atomic bombs. But also the beginning of the end. The long, slow turn toward victory that will take another 2.5 years of grinding, bloody combat. Your mother hugs you, and you both cry a little, and neither of you acknowledges it. You eat a sugar cookie. It tastes like molasses and duty, and the particular sadness of celebrating without anything to celebrate. The radio plays Auld Lang Syne, and you think about old acquaintance, about the boys who won't be forgot because they're dead, about the days of Auld Lang Syne that feel like another lifetime. December 31st, 1955, and you're sitting on a sectional sofa in your brand new ranch house in Levittown, Pennsylvania, watching the first ever coast-to-coast broadcast of the Times Square ball drop on your RCA Victor television set, and everything feels like the future. The house cost $8,000, a fortune, but manageable with your husband's job at the steel mill and the VA loan that made home ownership possible for a generation of veterans who came back from the war determined to build something normal. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen with built-in appliances, a refrigerator, a gas range, a garbage disposal, and a living room with a picture window that looks out on a street where every house is identical except for the colour of the shutters and the arrangement of the lawn ornaments. The TV is a 19-inch console model, wood cabinet, rounded screen, rabbit ear antennas wrapped in aluminium foil to improve reception. You bought it 6 months ago, and it's transformed your life in ways you didn't expect. You watch I Love Lucy every Monday. Your husband watches wrestling on Friday nights. The kids watch Howdy Doody after school. The TV is always on, a glowing presence in the corner, connecting you to a world beyond Levittown's curved streets and identical lawns. Tonight, for the first time, you can watch Times Square from your couch. NBC is broadcasting live, cameras positioned to capture the ball, the crowds, the moment, and the technology feels miraculous. 10 years ago, you listened on the radio. Tonight, you can see everything. The ball covered in electric bulbs, the thousands of people pressed together in the cold, the confetti waiting to fall. Your husband, Bob, is wearing slacks and a cardigan, the casual uniform of suburban men everywhere. He's drinking a highball, whiskey and soda, lots of ice, and smoking a Lucky Strike, the cigarette balanced casually between his fingers in a way that looks effortlessly masculine. The war is 10 years behind him. He was at Normandy, though he doesn't talk about it. And he's gotten soft around the middle, put on 30 pounds of prosperity and peace. He's 34 and looks older, but in a good way, a settled way. You're wearing pedal pushers and a twin-set sweater, pearls at your throat because you saw June Cleaver wearing them on Leave It to Beaver, and they looked sophisticated. Your hair is set in pin curls, shellacked with Aquanet hairspray that makes it crunchy to the touch. You smell like Pond's cold cream and the cigarette smoke that permeates everything despite your best efforts. The coffee table is covered with food. This is the age of convenience, of processed everything, of believing that science has improved nature. There's a Jell-O mold with pineapple suspended in lime gelatin, a platter of deviled eggs made with Miracle Whip, cream cheese and olive roll-ups, potato chips, Lay's from a bag, French onion dip made with Lipton soup mix and sour cream, and your contribution to modernity, Swanson TV dinners heating in the oven, aluminum trays with perfectly portioned turkey and cornbread stuffing, and mashed potatoes and peas. The kids, Bobby Jr. is 7, Linda is 5, are already asleep upstairs in their matching twin beds, with matching cowboy-themed bedspreads. They made it until 10:30 before exhaustion won, and now the house is blessedly quiet, except for the TV and the ticking of the electric clock in the kitchen. Your neighbour, Carol, is over with her husband, Jim. They live 4 houses down in an identical ranch, and you've become friends through the shared experience of new home ownership, child rearing, and the particular isolation of suburbs built so fast they don't have sidewalks yet. Carol is drinking a gin and tonic and talking about her new washing machine, a Maytag with an automatic wringer that saved her hours of work this week. The men are discussing cars. Bob wants a new Chevrolet Bel Air. Jim just bought a Ford Fairlane. And the conversation has that easy rhythm of people who agree on everything important. Eisenhower is a good president. Communism is a threat. Television is a miracle. And America is the greatest country on earth. The TV show is hosted by a man in a tuxedo whose name you'll forget immediately. He's standing in Times Square, interviewing people in the crowd. Young couples, groups of friends, families with kids who should be in bed. Everyone looks cold but happy, and the camera work is shaky, experimental, still figuring out how to capture live events. The technology is so new that sometimes the picture flickers or the audio cuts out, and everyone watching at home just accepts this as the price of witnessing history. At 11:30, Guy Lombardo starts playing from the Waldorf Astoria. He's moved up in the world since 1942, and his orchestra sounds smoother than ever on the TV speakers. This is the 15th year he's been the official sound of New Year's Eve, and the tradition has solidified into something that feels permanent, eternal, the way things did in 1955. Historians still argue whether the 1950s were truly as idyllic as they're remembered, or whether that's nostalgia and selective memory. The truth is complicated. Yes, there's prosperity, the GI Bill, the booming economy, full employment, rising wages. But there's also conformity, segregation. Levittown doesn't sell to Negroes, and nobody seems troubled by this. The Cold War. You have a fallout shelter in the basement, stocked with canned goods and water, and the constant low-level anxiety that nuclear war could erase everything tomorrow. But tonight, in your living room with your TV and your Jell-O mold, and your husband who came home from the war alive, it feels like things might be okay. Better than okay. Like America has figured something out, created a life that's safe and comfortable and replicable. A formula for happiness that can be mass-produced, like TV dinners and ranch houses. The countdown begins at 30 seconds. You can see it on TV. The ball starting its descent, the crowd surging forward, the cameras struggling to capture everything. 10, 9, 8. You and Bob and Carol and Jim say the numbers together, grinning, holding your drinks, participating in a ritual that's being performed simultaneously in millions of living rooms across America. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! The post-war boom at its peak. Elvis is about to explode into the mainstream. The interstate highway system is about to be built. The baby boom continues. You're thinking about having a third child, maybe a fourth. Everything is expanding, growing, multiplying. The future looks clean and bright and technologically advanced. Bob kisses you, and it's sweet and slightly drunk, and tastes like whiskey and cigarettes and the American dream. Carol and Jim kiss. The TV shows people in Times Square kissing strangers, embracing, throwing confetti that catches the light of 1,000 flashbulbs. Lombardo plays Auld Lang Syne, and everyone sings along, badly, laughing at the mangled lyrics. Should old acquaintance be forgot? The song means something different in 1955 than it did in 1918 or 1942. It's not about mourning the dead, it's about celebrating survival, about the friends you kept and the life you built and the enemies you defeated. By 12:30, Carol and Jim are heading home, walking the 4 houses in the cold January air that smells like snow and car exhaust and the particular chemical scent of new construction. You and Bob clean up, scraping Jell-O into the garbage disposal. What a luxury, what a miracle. stacking dishes in the sink to wash tomorrow, turning off the TV, which signs off at 1 a.m. anyway with the national anthem and then static. You check on the kids, both still asleep, Bobby Jr. snoring softly, Linda curled into a ball with her thumb in her mouth, even though you've been trying to break that habit. The house is warm, heated by an oil furnace that works automatically. No coal to shovel, no fires to tend. You stand at the picture window, looking out at Levittown at night. Every house dark except for the street lights, which cast orange pools on the curved roads. In the distance, you can see the glow of Philadelphia. Closer, just a lawn ornament, a concrete deer, and the skeleton of a young tree that might provide shade someday. Bob comes up behind you, puts his arms around your waist. "Happy New Year," he says again, quieter this time, just for you. And you lean back into him, solid and alive and home from the war, and think, yes, this is what we fought for, this exact moment. Tomorrow you'll make coffee and bacon and eggs. Bob will read the paper. The kids will watch cartoons. Life will continue in its comfortable, predictable rhythm. And that's not settling or boring or small. That's everything. December 31st, 1968. And you're standing at a crossroads in America where nothing makes sense anymore and the old certainties have shattered like a window hit by a brick. You're at a party in San Francisco, a Victorian house in the Haight that's been converted into a commune where 17 people live in rotating combinations of idealism and chaos. The walls are painted in psychedelic swirls of colour, day-glow oranges and electric purples that hurt to look at if you're sober. You're not sober. Nobody's sober. There's marijuana smoke so thick you can barely see across the room, and someone in the corner is dropping acid from a small white tablet, and the air smells like incense and patchouli, and the particular funk of too many unwashed bodies in a house with limited hot water. Your hair is long, past your shoulders, and you haven't cut it in 2 years because cutting your hair feels like capitulation to the straight world, to your father's world, to the America that's bombing Vietnamese villages and shooting college students and lying about everything. You're wearing bell-bottoms and a tie-dyed t-shirt you made yourself in a bathtub with rubber bands and fabric dye, and no bra, because bras are tools of patriarchal oppression, or so everyone says. Your feet are bare. You stopped wearing shoes 6 months ago, except when absolutely necessary. The stereo is playing the Beatles, Revolution, loud enough to rattle the windows and probably violate noise ordinances that nobody enforces anymore because the police gave up on the hate, declared it a lost cause, a containment zone for freaks and dropouts and kids who rejected everything their parents built. Your parents, who live in that Levittown house from 1955, haven't spoken to you in 8 months. The last conversation ended with your father saying, "You're not my daughter anymore," and you saying, "Good, I never wanted to be part of your genocidal generation anyway." 1968 has been the year America tore itself apart. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in April. You watched Memphis burn on television, watched the grief turn to rage, watched America's cities explode. Robert Kennedy was shot in June, and you cried for 3 days because he was supposed to be the hope, the one who might end the war, the last Kennedy brother standing. The Democratic Convention in Chicago in August was a riot. You watched police beat protesters on live television, watched Mayor Daley's cops go feral, watched the whole world watching. And the war, always the war. Vietnam is a wound that won't stop bleeding. 50,000 Americans dead for nothing, for no reason anyone can adequately explain. The Tet Offensive in January proved the government has been lying about progress, about winning, about light at the end of the tunnel. Every week, Walter Cronkite reads casualty figures. Every week, more boys come home in flag-draped coffins. Every week, protests grow larger, angrier, more desperate. Your boyfriend, though boyfriend is too conventional a term, you prefer old man in the hippie parlance, is named Rainbow. Actually, his name is probably Stephen or David or something equally boring, but he renamed himself when he dropped out of Berkeley last year. He's sitting cross-legged on the floor, playing a guitar badly, singing a Woody Guthrie song about this land being made for you and me. His hair is longer than yours, tied back with a leather cord. He's thin in that way everyone's thin when you live on brown rice and lentils and whatever vegetables you can shoplift from Safeway. The television is on, a small black and white set balanced precariously on a stack of books, showing Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve from Times Square. This is new, the first year of this broadcast that will become an institution, though you don't know that yet. Dick Clark looks impossibly straight, impossibly clean-cut, like a transmission from another planet, where people wear suits and believe in America.
The party is a mix of hippies, Black Panthers, 3 guys in leather jackets and berets who regard the white kids with amused tolerance, some SDS radicals from the university, a few artists and musicians, and one very out-of-place businessman who wandered in looking for his daughter and decided to stay. Everyone's talking politics, philosophy, revolution. Someone's reading from the autobiography of Malcolm X. Someone else is explaining Marxist theory. A girl in the corner is weeping about the war, about everything, about the sheer, overwhelming sadness of being young in 1968. There's food, kind of. Brown rice and beans, homemade bread that's dense enough to use as a weapon, apples stolen from someone's orchard, and if you're lucky, maybe some granola made with honey from the commune's dysfunctional beehive. No Jell-O molds, no TV dinners, no Wonder Bread. The old ways are rejected, replaced with whole grains and vegetarianism and the belief that changing your diet can change the world. At 11:30, someone turns up the TV volume. Times Square is packed, maybe more packed than usual because 1968 has been such a nightmare that people need this ritual, this collective marking of time's passage, this opportunity to believe next year might be better. But there's tension in the crowd, visible even through the grainy broadcast. More police than usual, faces that look angry, scared, uncertain. Historians still argue whether 1968 was the peak of the counterculture or the beginning of its decline, whether the revolution was real or performative, whether anything actually changed, or whether it was just a lot of noise from privileged white kids playing at rebellion. The truth is probably all of it. Genuine rage and righteous idealism mixed with self-indulgence and naivety. The countdown begins. 10, 9, 8.
In the commune, people are saying the numbers but not together, not in unison, because synchronization feels too conformist, too establishment. Everyone's on their own timeline, their own revolutionary clock. 3, 2, 1. The year that will bring Woodstock, the moon landing, the Manson murders, Altamont, the Chicago conspiracy trial. The year the 60s end, even though the calendar says they don't end until December 31st, 1969. The year everything both comes together and falls apart. Rainbow kisses you and it tastes like marijuana and revolution, and the particular desperation of knowing you're fighting battles you can't win, but fighting anyway, because what else is there? Around the room, people are embracing, crying, laughing, having revelations fueled by chemicals and exhaustion. Someone starts singing, "We Shall Overcome," and it catches, spreads through the room like fire. The Black Panthers don't sing, they watch, with expressions that mix sympathy and skepticism, because they know the cost of actual revolution. The difference between white kids playing at radicalism and black people dying for liberation. By 12:30, someone's having a bad trip, and needs to be talked down. Someone else is passed out in the bathroom. Two people are arguing about whether violence is ever justified in pursuit of social change. The businessman who came looking for his daughter has given up and left. The TV is still on, showing celebrations from a world that feels impossibly distant. You stand at the window, looking out at the hate at night. The streets are filthy, garbage and abandoned sleeping bags, and the detritus of a movement that's rotting from within. The summer of love was last year, but it feels like a lifetime ago. Now there are harder drugs, more violence, more desperation. The dream is dying, though you can't quite admit it yet. You make a resolution to keep fighting, to not give up, to believe that change is possible, even when everything suggests it's not. It's naive and beautiful and doomed, like most things in 1968. Somewhere, your parents are asleep in their ranch house, probably worried about you, probably praying for the day you come home and cut your hair and rejoin the straight world. Somewhere, boys are dying in rice paddies. Somewhere, police are planning raids. Somewhere, the future is being written by people who look nothing like you. But tonight, in this Victorian house that smells like incense and revolution, you're 23 years old and certain of your righteousness, and completely, devastatingly wrong about almost everything. 1969 arrives not with a bang, but with a confused, stoned, idealistic whimper. The old year is gone. The new year looks a lot like the old year, but with more disillusionment. Welcome to the end of the 60s. It's going to be a rough landing. December 30th, 1979, and you're standing in a line that wraps around the block outside Studio 54 in Manhattan, wearing platform heels that add 4 inches to your height and subtract all feeling from your toes. And everything is glitter and sweat and the desperate, beautiful knowledge that this decade is dying and no one knows what comes next. Your dress, if you can call it that, is a silver halter top and hot pants combination that shows more skin than your mother has revealed in her entire life. The fabric is synthetic, clingy, covered in sequins that catch the light from the club's flashing sign. Your hair is feathered, wings that required an hour with a curling iron and half a can of Farrah Fawcett hairspray to achieve. Your makeup is dramatic. Blue eyeshadow to your eyebrows, thick mascara, lip gloss so shiny you look like you've been eating butter. You're wearing Anjali perfume, the 8-hour perfume for the 24-hour woman, and you smell like musk and ambition. Studio 54 is the center of the universe tonight. Getting past the velvet rope is harder than getting into Harvard. The doorman, a muscular man in a tank top with a clipboard, is making snap judgments about who's beautiful enough, interesting enough, fabulous enough to enter. You've been in line for an hour, watching him reject people who look perfectly acceptable to you. The criteria are mysterious, arbitrary, cruel. But if you get in, you're chosen, you're special, you're part of something. Your friend Denise, who works at an advertising agency and makes actual money, unlike you with your secretary job at a law firm, is convinced you'll make it. "We look amazing," she keeps saying, adjusting her tube top. "He has to let us in." She's right about looking amazing. You spent 4 hours getting ready, transforming yourself from a girl who takes the subway to work into a disco goddess who exists only under strobe lights. The 70s are ending, and good riddance. What a decade. Watergate destroyed faith in government. Vietnam ended in humiliating defeat. The oil crisis made Americans wait in gas lines, questioning whether prosperity was guaranteed. Inflation is at 13%. A dollar in 1970 is worth 60 cents now. The hostages have been in Iran for 58 days, and the news shows their blindfolded faces every night. A reminder that American power has limits. But also, disco. The most purely hedonistic music ever created. engineered for dancing and drugs and sex, for forgetting that the world is falling apart. Donna Summer and the Bee Gees and Chic, four-on-the-floor beats and soaring strings, and lyrics that are mostly about love and dancing, and love while dancing. The music is criticized, mocked, derided as shallow and soulless, but you don't care because when that beat drops and the lights flash and the mirror ball scatters reflections across the ceiling, nothing else matters. The doorman points at you. You, silver dress, come here. Your heart stops. Denise grabs your hand. You approach the velvet rope like supplicants at an altar. He looks you up and down, assessing, judging. Both of you, he finally says, unhooking the rope. Have fun. Inside, Studio 54 is another planet. The bass is so loud you feel it in your chest cavity, replacing your heartbeat with something faster, synthetic, relentless. The dance floor is packed, bodies moving in ways that would have scandalized every previous generation, grinding and writhing and lost in the music. The lighting is theatrical, strobes and lasers and spotlights, and a massive mirror ball that turns the ceiling into a galaxy of reflected light. The crowd is mixed in ways that are rare in 1979 America. White and black and Latino, gay and straight, rich and working class, famous and nobody. You spot Liza Minnelli near the bar. Someone says Andy Warhol is in the VIP area, which is accessed through a secret door and contains pleasures you can only imagine. The club's owners, Steve Rubell and Ian Schrager, have created a temporary utopia where the normal rules don't apply, where anyone can be anyone, where the only currency is beauty and audacity. You and Denise head straight for the dance floor. The DJ, his name is Richie Kazor, though you don't know that, is playing Chic's Good Times, and the bass line is perfect. The guitar lick is infectious. The lyrics are about escaping, about good times being here at last, about forgetting your troubles and just getting happy. You dance like you're being paid for it, like it's the last night of your life, like moving your body to this specific rhythm might save something essential in your soul. The decade is dying around you, and the portents are ominous. The Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan last week. The economy is in stagflation. The 3 Mile Island nuclear accident happened in March, and nobody's quite sure how close we came to meltdown. Disco is about to die. A backlash is building, a disco sucks movement, led by rock fans who think this music is shallow, and the people who love it are worse. In 6 months, radio stations will destroy disco records in bonfires, and the genre will essentially vanish from mainstream radio, driven underground by a combination of racism, homophobia, and the eternal human need to destroy beautiful things. But tonight, disco is still alive, still the sound of liberation and joy, and the radical act of dancing while the world burns. You're 26 years old, unmarried, scandalous by your mother's standards, living in a tiny apartment in Queens, making barely enough to cover rent and student loans, and you've never felt more free. At 11:45, the DJ announces the countdown is coming. The music shifts. He's playing longer, building anticipation. The crowd is frenzied now. Everyone's sensing this is a threshold, a moment when one thing ends and another begins. Someone hands you champagne in a plastic cup. You drink it fast. It's warm and sweet and probably cheap, but it's champagne and it's New Year's Eve, and that's what matters. The countdown begins at 30 seconds. The music stops, replaced by a recording of crowd noise and a voice saying the numbers. 10, 9, 8. You're shouting along with hundreds of other people, strangers pressed against you. Everyone's sweat mingling, everyone's hope and fear and desperate optimism mixing in the hot air. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! A new decade. The 80s, which will bring Reagan and MTV and the AIDS epidemic and crack cocaine and yuppies and Gordon Gekko declaring, "Greed is good." Everything is about to change again, but you don't know that yet. Balloons fall from the ceiling, thousands of them, silver and gold, cascading onto the dance floor like a metallic rainstorm. Confetti follows, glitter everywhere, coating your skin and hair and clothes. Strangers kiss you, men and women, everyone celebrating, everyone participating in the ritual release of joy. The DJ drops "I Will Survive," and the crowd loses its collective mind. Gloria Gaynor's voice, powerful, defiant, triumphant, fills the club. At first, I was afraid. I was petrified. The song has been out for a year, but tonight it hits different. It's an anthem for making it through, for surviving a decade that tried to break America, for walking into an uncertain future with your head held high. You dance until 3 a.m., until your feet are bleeding inside your platform heels, until you've sweated off all your makeup and your hair has collapsed into damp strings. Denise is making out with someone in the corner. You lost track of her hours ago. The club is still packed, still pulsing with music and light, and the determination to squeeze every last drop of joy from this night. By 4, you're finally outside, walking toward the subway, carrying your shoes because you can't wear them anymore. The January air is freezing and you're wearing almost nothing, but you don't care. The sky is starting to lighten, that pre-dawn grey that means you've stayed up all night, crossed the boundary between evening and morning. On the subway platform, you see other people coming from other parties. Club kids and punk rockers, and normal people who did normal New Year's things like dinner parties and champagne toasts. Everyone looks exhausted and exhilarated, marked by the same awareness that time has moved forward, that another year is gone, that we're all hurtling into an unknowable future. Historians still argue about what the 1970s meant, whether it was a lost decade or a necessary transition, whether disco mattered or was just escapism. The truth is complicated. Yes, it was escapism. But escapism is sometimes survival. Sometimes dancing in a club while the world burns outside is the most radical thing you can do. You get home at dawn, your tiny apartment looking even smaller after the grandeur of Studio 54. You peel off your silver dress, wash the glitter from your skin, it takes 3 showers, glitter is eternal, and fall into bed as the sun rises over Queens. The 80s are here. Disco is dying. The hostages are still in Iran. The Cold War continues. But you survived the 70s, and that counts for something. Outside your window, New York City wakes up, indifferent to decades and celebrations, and the concerns of small humans marking time. The city will be here long after you're gone, long after Studio 54 becomes a memory, long after the mirror ball stops spinning. But last night, for a few hours, you were part of something beautiful and doomed and perfect. You danced at the end of a decade, covered in glitter and hope, and the certainty that even when everything's falling apart, the music plays on. The bass line continues. The beat never stops. Good times, the song promised, are here at last. And for one night, in a club that will close within a year, that promise almost felt true. And there you have it. 7 decades, 7 midnights, 7 different Americas, welcoming New Year's with whatever they had left. Oysters or ration sugar, champagne or bootleg gin, ballrooms or bomb shelters, suburbs or communes, disco balls or dreams deferred. You've traveled now through gaslight and strobe lights, through world wars and culture wars, through times of plenty and times of want. You've stood in parlors where calling cards mattered and clubs where only beauty did. You've waited out wars with blackout curtains drawn tight, and you've danced like the world was ending because sometimes it felt like it was. The thing about New Year's Eve, you see, is that it's never really about the year that's coming. It's about the one that's leaving, about survival and loss, and the strange human need to mark time's passage with ritual and noise. Those Americans, from the woman in the corset to the girl covered in disco glitter, they were all asking the same question at midnight. Did we make it? And if we did, what's waiting in the dark ahead? The answers changed every decade. The hope stayed constant, flickering like gaslight, persistent as a baseline, stubborn as Americans have always been when facing uncertain futures. So take that with you as you drift off tonight. Take the champagne bubbles and the jazz rhythms, the radio static and the mirror ball reflections, the fear and the dancing and the defiant optimism of people who kept celebrating even when celebrating felt impossible. Tomorrow's coming, whether you're ready or not. Might as well meet it with confetti in your hair and a song you half remember playing softly in the back of your mind. Rest easy now. The midnight hours are done. The new year's already here, and history's moved on without us, the way it always does. Good night.